Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars, and let's get right into this emergency Bitcoin update. Notice how right here we are actually breaking out of a falling wedge pattern, which is a bullish bias pattern, meaning that it is more likely to break out to the upside. And we have already broken out of this pattern here. In fact, we also have a confirmed bullish divergence in the charts, which is when we have lower lows in the Bitcoin price and higher lows in the RSI momentum indicator. Now combine that with the fact that we are also in this big level of support, sitting from 112 all the way down to 110K. And in case you didn't notice yet, with this falling wedge, we also have a confirmed price target to the upside at about 118K in the Bitcoin price. Therefore, in the short term, this is starting to look a little bit more bullish, looking like we might get some kind of short-term bullish move to the upside here. Now, something that is absolutely critical to keep in mind here is that if we start getting candle closes below 111K in the Bitcoin price, so about 1% down from here on this 4-hour time frame, then that should be considered a warning signal. If we end up doing something like this, bouncing from this descending trend line, you can always just enter into that long once again once we break the previous high. But if we end up breaking down below 111K, see that as a short-term warning signal, not financial advice, of course. Even with this starting to look more bullish here in the immediate short term, there are some warning signals that we should not completely forget about. For example, if I take a look at this 3-day time frame for Bitcoin, notice how right here we are trying to break through this area of resistance because we just lost this as a level of support. I'm talking about this about 112K level in the Bitcoin price. We need to start getting 3-day candle closes above that level in order to reclaim this and basically view this as a failed breakdown. So that is something to keep an eye on. So the thing is, we do not have that strong bullish confirmation yet of us getting 2-day candle closes above 120K. But at the same time, we also haven't gotten those 2-day candle closes below 110K. So we are still just trading sideways at the moment. But considering that we are right now in this level of support at the bottom of the range, I would argue that the risk is actually to the upside, because if we now just get another move up to 120K and reject there, well, if you have been shorting this entire time, then this is obviously a wasted opportunity, right? So right now, my outlook for Bitcoin is, well, we are simply just trading sideways so long as we're not breaking down below this bull market support band, not breaking down below 110K with 2-day candle closes. There are some warning signals, like for example, this area of resistance, as well as this bearish divergence on the 3-day time frame, typically pointing towards either some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bearish momentum. But if we are now reclaiming this, even if we get a move up to 120K once again on this 3-day time frame, that will still just basically look like choppy sideways price action, right? So we can still take advantage of these smaller moves in the market. And I think the biggest warning signal so far actually is this rising wedge pattern on the weekly time frame, which has already confirmed a breakdown. And this has a confirmed price target of about 88K in the Bitcoin price. Keep in mind that there is, of course, a point of invalidation, which is if we get weekly candle closes above this 120K level. But besides that, we also have a massive bearish divergence on this weekly time frame, which typically, once again, points towards either some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bearish momentum. So to summarize, the weekly time frame is looking a little bit more bearish. The 3-day time frame is trying to reclaim this previous level of support. So we need to see how that actually plays out. But so far, we are also not breaking down below this bull market support band. So therefore, it makes more sense to me to be looking for some kind of long position here rather than looking for a short until we get a clear confirmation that we are actually breaking down below this critical level of support, right? Besides that, on this 4-hour time frame, we are actually starting to see some potential reversal signals in the short term in the form of this falling wedge pattern, which has confirmed a price target at about 118K in the Bitcoin price. As always, guys, keep an eye on those levels of invalidation. For example, if we break down below 111K, consider that to be a warning signal in the short term here. And you can always just re-enter if we end up breaking out above these previous highs, right? Moving on to the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. First of all, on this 2-week time frame, right now we have a lot of liquidity to the upside at about 120K in the Bitcoin price, although we should also zoom out all the way to this 1-year time frame. And here you can see that we do still have quite a bit of liquidity sitting at about 107K in the Bitcoin price. Notice how this also lines up perfectly with this bull market support band. So even if we get another little push lower here and we end up taking out all that liquidity around the bull market support band, that doesn't have to be extremely bearish, but of course we should keep an eye on those warning signals that I showed you earlier. Overall, I would say right now there is a chance of a move to the upside in the form of that 4-hour time frame pattern that I showed you, but we should not ignore the high time frame warning signals either. So just focus on the time frame that you are trading and focus specifically on that, because the overall direction of the market is currently neutral. It isn't extremely bullish, and it also isn't extremely bearish. You can see that in the form of this sideways channel that we are basically in, where not much is really happening in the Bitcoin price. And therefore, as I have been saying over and over again in my videos, guys, just focus on trading the lower timeframes for Bitcoin, because this is much more controllable than trying to capture these massive swings on the higher timeframes in the Bitcoin price. Of course, nothing I say in my videos is financial advice. I'm simply telling you what I'm seeing in the charts, and you can do with that information what you like. Now, lastly, let's take a quick look at the Bitcoin ETF flow tables. And you can see that over the last couple of days, we got some net inflows from these ETFs. So overall, this is having a small upwards pressuring effect on the Bitcoin price right now. Either way, this has been today's market update. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.